So this is Kurt. I saved this for a couple of weeks now, so it's a little bit old. But Canada's labor force stats. I mean, if you can believe them here, 1,400 job loss, unemployment rate up 0.2 to 6.4, employment rate down 0.2 to 61.1. Industries saw job loss were transportation, warehousing, construction, professional, technical, cultural, and recreational. Men especially saw job losses. So this is that men thing again, right? 15 to 20-year-old, 24-olds lost 13,000 jobs. 25 to 54, I'm still in that category by a couple days, lost 14,000 jobs. The employment of returning students was the worst since 1998 with a rate of 46.8%. Unemployment rate is 15.9. Students also were more likely to have a part-time job versus full-time, of course. There are now 1.4 million unemployed people. Over the last 12 months, public sector jobs, get this, grew by how much do you think?
108,000.
183,000 versus 106 in the private sector. The jobs report was a disaster. There is no other way to put it. Canada isn't creating jobs, and the private sector has created 77,000 less jobs than the public sector over the last year. As I said before, there is no economic business case for mass immigration, but we mass immigrating people straight into unemployment. And let's just hear what this lady has to say about it. Okay, I'm going to play one of these clips. I got to do it. Let me know if you can hear it.
I cannot stand how the news has been dogging Gen Z and calling them lazy for not wanting to work a 9 to 5 for the rest of their lives. Let me put it in perspective for everybody who's a little confused here. Okay?
I want to know what you think of this.
Okay, I work 5 days out of the week, 40 hours a week. Okay, I do not make enough to live on my own. I would not make enough to pay rent, water, electric, and eat all by myself. I would not be capable of doing that. 20 years ago, when you were getting started, you could live on your own. 20 years ago, when you first started, you were able to do everything that I am now struggling to do. Let me add another perspective here. You've been working for 20 years. You have 20 years of working experience behind your belt. You have 20 years of experience in a career that has allowed you to gain raises, to get more money, to profit you in an economy that you created. You can sit here and you can call Gen Z lazy all you want, but I've been working my tail end off just to barely make it by. And respectfully, I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. I don't want to work my tail end off, wasting all of my life working just to barely be able to pay my bills. And that is what you created, not Gen Z. We're just here getting started. You've been doing it for the last 20 years. You tell me how it got ruined. We can sit here and we can call Gen Z lazy all you want, but you let the economy turn into what it did. You let it all run to hell. And now it's Gen Z's fault because we don't want to work to fix your mistakes.
She does have a point that people aren't going to want to work if you really can't make it by anyways. Like, what's the point? You could see how it would be very discouraging, right? I don't know. Why bother, right? I mean,
we couldn't make it by when we were her age,
Well, yeah, we could. I mean, you could work.
Because we had 4 dudes living in a house or 5 dudes living in a house.
Well, I mean, I know we did that. Yeah,
driving shitty cars, and we didn't have cell phones, and sometimes we were straight up stealing cable. But we definitely didn't have, Netflix and this and this and this, and we didn't have the cell phones. And I mean, I don't know how many people are driving new cars compared to then, but I just sort of remember that as being how it was when you moved out.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, a lot of people are saying she has good points, but misguided in her blame. We all had the same complaints 20 years ago. We all had the same complaints 40 years ago. Dude, I don't know. I think it is harder now. It is harder now, though.
5 years ago, I could knock it out of a basement apartment.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for working 5 fucking jobs, I'd still be in a basement apartment. So, I mean, I don't know. Not every, it's like, cry me a fucking river. You're probably doing better than most people because you don't have any fucking overhead.
Apples to oranges, young lady. Gen X at 20 prioritized affordability and necessity, limited expenditure on personal care and luxury items, focused on in-person social activities and home-cooked meals. Technology and entertainment were simpler and less expensive.
And your
I don't
dollar
know.
went to shit. I mean, you can't forget that your dollar has devalued 60-fold in the last 60 years.
It's just so yes and no. 20 years ago when I started working, the economy was already pretty much ruined. It's way worse. It's just way worse now. So she's right, but it also sucked 20 years ago. You got to go back 40 years to have actually been
More
able to
than
live
that,
reasonably.
I think you got to go
Well,
back
bring it
like
up.
fucking 60 or 70 years.
Yeah.
50s,
Maybe.
60s. I mean, I don't know. You were the 70s. How was it then? It's probably right when we came off of gold. I mean, didn't we come off of gold? We came off of gold for a reason, though, because everything was going to shit.
Dude, it was tough for my parents who moved out west. They spent they sold their house for a little bit. They had a huge mortgage at whatever it was, like 120,000, but it was at 19% interest. I mean, the interest rates were skyrocketing in the early 80s. Like it was fucking a struggle for a while there, you know?
Hard to
Yeah.
complain
Yeah,
about how
man.
it is now.
I know. Like there was stress back in the early 80s too, right? I mean,